Okay. It's showtime because I say it's showtime. Look, I've already got one super chat. Hi, guys. What's going on? This is the Rollo show today. I was supposed to have Andrew Tate as my guest for my. I think I'm doing this like every other week now, so I guess it will be a bi-monthly Q&A. I was going to have him on. Actually, this time slot we're going to do this at it's actually noon here in lovely overcast Reno, Nevada, in the silver desert that I live in right now. Anyways, I was going to do it at noon today because I thought I was going to have Andrew Tate on with me. But apparently he is not going to be able to make it today because he's having troubles. Oh, there we go. He's having troubles with his internet or his bandwidth or something. He is in Dubai right now, and he is at an Airbnb. I didn't even know they had Airbnbs in Dubai. Probably very expensive ones, I would imagine. Anyway, so he hit me up earlier this morning and said that he wasn't going to be able to make it because he just doesn't have what he needs to just join in. I guess he needs a camera. He needs some sort of traveling kit. I think he's on the road right now. I'm not really sure what he's doing in Dubai. But he will tell us tomorrow because I am pushing off our interview till tomorrow. Our Q&A. So if you wanted to get a question in with Andrew Tate, we're going to do it tomorrow. Most likely it'll be about the same time slot if I can work it out. He wanted to reschedule for like 10 o'clock my time, but the problem with that is then that ends up being like 1 in the morning for the Eastern time zone, and not many people are awake at that time. So yeah, that's one of the tricks I think of being a good YouTuber, and I don't consider myself a great YouTuber by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm learning, and courtesy of guys like Josh Fluke, which, by the way, was a really great interview last Wednesday. If you haven't, if you haven't seen it, I thought it was a really great contrast to what I did with Tate the week before. That interview, which was 2 weeks ago Friday, you can just go look through my videos here in the suggestions, I guess. That was an unintentionally very good interview and very good video for both of us, and it really kind of opened our eyes to like maybe we should be doing this on a semi-regular basis. So Tate and I are sort of collating, I guess, on what it is that we can do together on a semi-regular basis, because people really enjoyed that. They really liked the back and forth between he and I. He's really good. Tate's very good at the game side of things. He's very good, well, not game, but he's very good at the sort of the practice side of the red pill. And I think he just sort of naturally does, and thinks red pill. Guys, I'm going to be burping a lot today because I got this. Excuse me. Gosh. Sorry, I'm really not coming down with something. It's just the change of the season. We got a cold snap here. Like yesterday, I think it was like almost like 65 or 70 degrees, and now it's like 44 degrees outside. So anyways, that was an unexpectedly very good interview video, and I think that just sort of the things that he does or that come natural to him, I kind of have the explanations for, and I can sort of dig into as to why things work for him. So that said, I will get something going with him tomorrow, and we'll see if we can do it for this same time slot. If not, it might be at 3. We'll see. I don't know what the time difference is in Dubai. So, and then I know he might be flying back to Romania, wherever he's based in right now these days. So anyways, what that means is that you get a very casual, intimate evening with me. So I got a few here already, some questions already. If you want to get your questions in, I mean, I always super chats are appreciated, but you don't have to do super chats. I try to keep up, and now that StreamYard has been kind enough to sort of highlight these things and make multi-streaming a possibility now, I can pay a little bit more attention to the chats here. I believe I have Sambata in the house, so he's doing the moderations today. If you really want to get something going, throw something at him and he'll throw it at me. So anyways, I just, before I get started here, Alex, I see you're first in line. I'll make sure I get to yours first. Um, I am working on a couple of things, and I kind of wanted to throw these out there as sort of topics to discuss. One of them was the idea of respect, and I talked about this with both Josh Fluke and with Andrew Tate, and those discussions kind of prompted me to go back and reconsider ideas about respect. Now, of course, I have written about respect in my prior work. I have actually an essay called Respect, but that was like way back in the day. And I think that when I was considering the ideas or the concepts of respect back then, I think I aligned myself with whatever the popular thinking was about respect. And so in that time, like when I wrote that post about respect, I think it was like 2011 or 2012, something like that. And in that time, I've sort of had the occasion to really listen to what other guys have talked about when it comes to respect, and even women when it comes to like respect. And I've come to the idea, anyways. And I've got my nice handy dandy. If you can see all this is like one of my notebooks right here. I've got probably like 4 or 5 of them right here. This is my oldest and fullest one, but I had to go back to it to look at my ideas and my notes on respect and respectability. Throw that away. There we go. And so as I've been like reconsidering this, I was talking to Tate, I was talking to Josh, and it struck me that I really need to go back and kind of reconsider it, because I think that there are certain aspects of just like our experience as human beings where men and women have different concepts for what we think is a mutual concept between men and women. Now, the easiest one and the first one I figured out was, of course, love, right? I've always said this, and I still stand by this, is that men approach love from an idealistic perspective and women approach love from an opportunistic perspective. And women lose their minds when I say opportunism, but that's the best way I can put it. So please don't think that I'm attacking you, or I'm saying, oh, you just think all women are whores, or you think all women are prostitutes, or whatever, because all they think about is their own their own skin when it comes to those things. I have another, that reminds me, I've got a really good post that I think I might want to read today. Again, it's by that, I don't know the dude personally. In fact, I would like to get him on Rule Zero, but he goes by the handle of Whisper on the TRP, the new TRP subreddit, or the where we're going now. Anyways, TRP is I don't know, it's kind of devolved into something that I'm not really. I don't know. I don't want to give up on TRP. I love TRP. I love the guys. I love that whole thing. But it has definitely gone through some evolutions. But in the new venue, I guess that Red Pill School has developed, I think it's a little bit more balanced, or at least it's trying to be. And in that, there's a guy named Whisper. I don't know what your real name is, dude. If you're watching this, I would definitely like to have you on this show, or have you on Rule Zero. But he had a really great post. I think I'll read later on. I'll just save that for later. But with respect to respect, I think that men and women approach respect in a similar way that they do for love. And so when I talk about love being, men and women having different concepts of what love, or coming to love through different concepts. So men approach love idealistically. We want to believe that it's possible. We want to believe in what is possible. Men are focused on things. Women are focused on people, generally themselves, but also other people. And that's a whole nother can of worms to open up. I could talk about solipsism at some point, I suppose. But anyway, so respect is something I've been thinking of in the same terms, right? I think that men approach respect from a different concept than women do, and by that I mean that women approach respect from the idea that it is just something that's a given. It's inherent to the experience of being a woman. Like, we are supposed to respect women just for being women. In fact, that's a shaming tactic that I think that a lot of a lot of women would like to throw at guys. Like, you don't respect women. I've ever since, like, I think I was like 18 or 19 years old, I've listened to that. I've heard that. I still get it today from women on Twitter and stuff. You don't respect women. And then, of course, I'm thinking, well, and of course, guys will say the same things. So they think, well, what is there to respect? Like, what? Show me what it is that I should respect with you. And it's like, well, you don't respect women, as if that is like some given. And in a gynocentric social order, it is. It should be a given. They think it should be a given. That is just something that you get by default. And women use this, and a gynocentric social order uses this as a basis for establishing kind of like qualifications. Like, if you're a woman, you can take this and turn it into race. You can turn it into gender. You can turn it into even disabilities, right? You can turn it into, fat shaming, where everybody deserves respect. Everybody. How many times have we heard that? Everyone deserves respect, unless you're a guy. And then if you're a guy, then you have to earn respect. Then you have to merit that. And that's true. And that's another thing, is I think that men approach respect from a merit-based understanding of what respect is, because nobody gives a shit. We have to earn shit. Like, men have to become, women just are, and men have to become. And that concept plays over into the idea of respect as well. Respect is something that women just have. Men have to become respect. They have to earn respect. They have to merit respect. They have to have something that makes them in some way respectable. That's what we talk about. What's respectability? Just to be a woman is respectability, right? Just because you have a vagina, therefore we are supposed to respect you. And that's if you haven't guessed, this is going to be my next essay. And so with that in mind, how is there a conflict there? And how is that the idea of respect used? I've said this before, is like, for men, there are certain concepts that we have that women don't experience, or they don't experience it in the same way. So when it comes to honor, I've said this before, I've written it, actually, it's in the first book. It's called The Honor System. Just how honor is something that men sort of understand between each other, because we have, our life experience is based on our burden of performance. And that burden of performance is something, however well you do it, or how well you don't do it, I guess, however you lack in it, is the estimate of that, or the status that men have, is respectability, respect for something that you do, respect for something that you think, right? Respect for something that is respectable. Like, what have you done? What have you made of yourself? It's one point I always bring up when I'm discussing like MGTOWs and stuff like that. People will say, well, I want to get out of the game. I'm done. It's horrible that I would be, or what is it? You shouldn't base your understanding, or you shouldn't have standards, right? You shouldn't have any standards, because that means you're thinking about what other people think about you. And we shouldn't care about what other people think about us. Well, unfortunately, that's not how the human race works. We are innately tribalist. Men have an innate understanding of a meritocracy, or at least we would like to anyways. And in that, we can develop ideas and concepts like honor, or duty, or loyalty, or fraternity, that kind of stuff. We can come to those because our experience, or what we think of as pragmatically as our experience, the way that we're wired, we come to those concepts as a result of that. Women would like to say, well, we understand honor and everything. It's like, well, yeah, but not in the same way. You don't come to it in the same way. So when I talk about how men have to become, how we have to have a burden of performance, it would be very nice if we didn't, but that doesn't get us anywhere. That doesn't progress us. That doesn't make us better than we were the day before. That doesn't make, like, I've always said this, is that I don't believe in contentment. Contentment is not part of like the human experience. Discontent is part of the human experience. So you might got that great degree, or you might got to that plateau in your life where you think okay, this is good now. I'm finally where I want to be. Or once I get this, I'll be content. Or once I get the hot chick, I'll be content. Or once I get my degree, I'll be content. Once I get a great job, I'll be content. Or once I get my business on, I'll be content. And it's like, no, you won't. And that's by design. That's good. It's good that you aren't content. How do you come to those things? How do you come to dealing with that discontent? Well, guys have to, I can't speak for women because I'm not a woman in this respect, but I can understand at least how the differences play out between men and women, and just how we're wired in that, with that idea. So I think that men and women come to the concept of respect via different routes. And I think that the idea of respect to women is not what men would consider being respect, because men, when we deal with those kinds of concepts, with honor, with duty, respect, integrity would be another one, love, those kinds of these are like really kind of esoteric, big, complex, ideas. Even love is a complex idea if you think about it. How we come to that, how we understand that as a man is different than how women are going to understand it. So when women say, well, you don't respect women, well, it's because I'm approaching respect from a male perspective, meaning that I look at that and I say, well, what's to be respectable? What have you done that should in any way earn my respect? And women get pissed off at that because they say, well, I'm just a woman, so you should respect women. Okay. Well, from a female point of view, she's probably right. She thinks that that's what she's just has this deserving of a default respect because she happens to be a woman. And we build that up. We put that into young girls' heads for a very long time, from the time they're 5 years old, always look for a man who respects you, or what was it, like even Sheryl Sandberg, even in the Sandbergian plan for hypergamy, once you're done with the bad boys and the commitment phobic boys and and all basically the alphas that you banged during your party years, always look for a guy but don't marry those guys, right? Always look for a guy when you get to be in your epiphany phase, between, let's say 29 to 31 years old. Look for a guy who respects you or respects a woman's opinion, respects blah, 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 respects this, respects that about you. That's what it is. It's like there's never any point of earning that respect or becoming something that is respectable. Now, I'm just going to throw one more thing out here. I want to get the conversation started. This is like my ideas. This is what I'm just sort of, I got up early this morning. It's raining. I do my best thinking when it rains. I don't know why. So what I thought also about this is we have a new Star Wars movie coming out. In fact, I was going to nail Tate on this today, but now I guess the cat's out of the bag. And we have one of the biggest complaints, I think, that a lot of Star Wars fans, or guys who are not the woke fans, but the guys who understand good writing and good creativity, they look at this and they see, well, the main character, which is Rey, she's a Mary Sue, right? She never had to do anything. She never had to earn anything. She just suddenly has this magical ability to use the Force and to wield a lightsaber. And we see this in other characters as well, like Captain Marvel. Or we look at female superheroes are the easiest example of this, because when we look at the backstory for, like Ryan would say, your superhero origins tale, when we look at those things, we look at the man becoming that. The superhero goes from being the weak, wimpy Peter Parker or Steve Rogers to becoming the super powerful Spider-Man. And even Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. So we have to learn that along the way. We have to learn that if I'm going to have this really great power over other people with strength or whatever, I need to use it responsibly. I'm a guy, so I have to go through this process of becoming, but in that process, I have to learn the responsibility of the power that I'm supposed to have. I mean, that's even part of the whole shtick with Spider-Man. Or you get Steve Rogers, who is this wimpy kind of guy who gets denied to go fight for his country in World War II because he got fallen archers and he's just too weak. Now suddenly he becomes super powerful, but it's not his super powered body that is so much the secret to that character, that he's a good dude, right? He gets chosen to become Captain America because he's got a good heart and he will use it responsibly. And we want a hero, we don't want a villain, right? Well, that process doesn't happen for female superheroes. They don't have to learn how to be a better person. They just suddenly magically have it. And I think really that is also sort of reflective or sort of analogous to the idea that women just are and men must become. And even when we're writing archetypical stories about fantasy characters and things like that, we just presume that the woman has this magical power, because that's really, you think about it, that's where women's fantasies are rooted in when it comes to power dynamics. Is, wouldn't it be great if I could be as powerful as a man? Wouldn't it be great? And then I'd show them. Then, boy, things would change then. What would I, like this fantasy, what would I do if I had this, if I could be a man for a day and be as powerful as a man? Here's what I would do, right? And so it's like, you're there. It's not a process of becoming that character, becoming that way. And that, I think, is something that we sort of innately understand as men and as women. And the same thing, I think, applies with regard to respect. It's like women presume that they should be respectable, that that's just what they are. And it didn't have to be earned. It didn't have, there is no dominance hierarchy for women in the regard to respect, right? Women have there is definitely a pecking order for women's collectivism. I mean, I've always said this is that attention is the coin of the realm in girl world. And so there is a status, a kind of a hierarchy within women, but it is not necessarily based on the same meritocracy that men presume. And then finally, I think I've said this before. I've read research about this. I really need to find some links so I can really back this up. But I've read research where they've done these experiments where they will give resources to a group of men, and they'll say, okay, here's $1,000. It's up to you guys, you group of men, to distribute this for whatever project that you're working on, or for this organization. And men will innately take those resources or that money, and they will distribute it via how much that guy contributed to whatever that project is. So, Bill, you did X amount of work, you get $5. Joe, you did a little bit better, so here's $15. And Steve, you only did a little bit, so here's $5. And so it's just based on this kind of understanding that merit or contribution should matter more. Whereas for women, it's almost always distributed as equally as possible. So everybody, you get 5 and you get 5 and you get 5 and you get 5, and then we're all going to be happy because we all contributed equally. And there's never any, never, but there's not as women don't have the same proclivity to think in terms of individualism or think in terms of merit as much, because women have to come together. I mean, if you think about this from an evolutionary standpoint, women have to come together and deal with each other because they need mutual support. Women have much greater social networks than men. And I'm not just talking about like online or anything like that. They have much greater social networks, whether that's a church or the social or school or whatever it is. There's always a girlfriend to fall back on. There's always a collective of the girls. That's what I call a sisterhood. The sisterhood is always there. Whereas for men, one of the big concerns of our time is that men might kill themselves because they don't talk about their feelings or they don't have other guys to hang out with. It's like, yeah, okay, I can sort of understand that, but it's not because it's usually like we criticize men because they don't act more like women. And we're just not wired that way. We just don't think that way. We have a different way of processing emotions than women do. Women are more collectivist. Men tend to be more individualist. And again, how we approach those is how we approach things like respect, how we approach love, how we approach honor, those things that we would say, well, that makes a man better. Like I think really men have a higher burden of performance than women actually do. And I was getting into that earlier today on Twitter. And of course, you can call it a troll if you want, but it's always an interesting social experiment when a guy like Rich Cooper goes and creates a list of all of these standards that a woman should and they're not like crazy out there standards. They're just a list of criteria that women should be able to follow in order to be a better match, a better, you want to get a guy, try these things. I did about 3 weeks ago, I did an essay for women. I even titled it, Here's an Essay for Women. And in there, I sort of explained why it is that women are resistant to being told, and women don't want to be told shit, right? I mean, it's now a meme. They don't want to have anyone tell them or hold them to any kind of standards because they already believe that they're there. They already believe that they have the respect. They already believe that they should be respected and respectable just because they are women. And so when you say, ladies, here's a list of criteria. Here's 6 simple things that would probably make you a better, more attractive mate beyond just like your physical or, whatever. Like, here's some value added things you might want to just think about. Women lose their minds. Well, men do it too. Or you guys, what makes you so hot? What makes, it's like that you get thrown all this crap back at you for just saying, ladies, just how about thinking about this? And it makes the 6 o'clock news. And the post that Rich just put up this morning is now over 100 responses. It's probably at 300 or 400 retweets. God knows how many likes it's got right now. And this engagement that goes on as a result of that, all for one very triggering thing, which is to in some way insinuate that a woman might have to live up to some sort of standard, that a man might reject her because she doesn't have anything beyond like the physical or beyond just being a hot piece of ass. And I think it's interesting because you look at the responses in this thread, in this Twitter thread, and women are losing their minds, and because it takes away a certain degree of control. It takes away the control over women being the primary sexual selector. And God forbid a man ever be so. In fact, that's the first default, right? Well, what makes you so hot? What makes you? Well, why should we follow you? I only live for myself. The only standards I have are the ones that I make for myself. Well, okay, how's that working out for you? Right? Why would it be that like men? Here's another good example. Why would it be that men have this huge, long, like Royce used to call this the 436 bullet point checklist, right? Why would we have so many prerequisites for intimate acceptability with women? Yet for women rage if you say one thing about, well, maybe you might want to think about this. Maybe you should consider that. Maybe you should, like, how about this? Keep your hair long. How about this? Stay fit and attractive. How about this? Don't have kids from a prior relationship. How about this? You be pleasant and nice and don't nag. It's like saying, guys, here's a good idea. Don't be an asshole. Don't be a jerk. We don't. Okay. Yeah, I got it. Okay, but we say that to a woman. What do you mean? Because they're already there. Because they already believe that where they are at is deserving of respect. I'm just a woman, so you shouldn't have any criteria on me. You should be thankful that you get to breathe the same air on this planet that I do. And it's just this idea of how do we come to that? How do we get there? Now I know people are going to say, well, it's the culture, it's this. Yeah, okay, maybe that has something to do with it. There are women in there who agree with it, right? So obviously it's not like universal, but I think one of the reasons why this is so outrageous is that we are now in a global sexual marketplace. And when women who are becoming more and more westernized see this, or like the past 3 or 4 generations of women who have been globalized and sort of homogenized really in a Western feminist understanding of gender, when they see this, they understand that there's something else. They can't just rely on just being a hot little flirty piece of ass. They have to have something else. There has to be some sort of value added. And that's actually the first thing I said in my essay for women, is that, you know what, you need to learn the concept of value added. Women lose their mind. Well, what do you mean? I'm me. Who cares what you think? You're not so hot, Mr. Man. That's the whole idea. Anyways, okay, so I'm going to move on here. Those are something to think. Those are your thoughts for the day. I promised myself I wouldn't go more than 30 minutes giving you the thoughts for the day. So there you go. Alex, Julian Yoga. Rollo, thanks so much. Here, I'll just put this on here. I got it right there. Rollo, thank you so much. I think it's funny that yesterday was International Men's Day and yet no one acknowledged it. I did. Did you read any of my tweets? Or even knew about it. However, International Women's Day is a global celebration. Yeah, I understand. I have I don't have it handy right now. Somebody spared me the trouble of going and saving the last, I think, 10 years of those little Google Doodles for, they put Google on their search engine. They put some like cute little. It's funny. I actually tried out for that. I auditioned. I responded for that job to do the doodles for Google way back in like the late 2000s when they were hiring for that spot. I actually tried to get on that. People don't know I do. I'm an illustrator. I'm an art director. I do lots of creative things as well. And so I actually tried out for that. I'm actually kind of glad I didn't get it now. But those Google Doodles, when you look at the ones for Women's Day or International Women's Day, which is March 8th, I don't know how that happened. It's the celebration of women, and it's nothing but women this or achievements of women. And it's like every year at March 8th, there's some new doodle about how female empowerment. And then when you look at all of the International Men's Day for the last year or for the last decade, nothing. It's just a logo. They never recognize it. And so what happens then is, like, if I go and I say that, and I show them, we say, hey, look, here's an evidence. What women will say is, well, what do you mean? Every day's Man's Day. It's you live in a patriarchy, so and or they think that, well, you're just crying. Yeah, well, so what, man? Like, why do you care? Why is this a big deal? And it's like, it's not a big deal to me. But anytime somebody said, like, if I say we live in a gynocentric social order, people go, no, we don't, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, how about this? Here's an example. Just by pointing that out, it makes you seem like you're victim. You're victimizing yourself. Like you want to claim a victimhood as a man because you didn't get a cute little doodle on your special day. So they point that out. Or the other thing is that International Men's Day, and I wrote a pretty long Twitter thread about this yesterday. I'm not a big fan of International Men's Day because it has been co-opted and it has been assimilated like any other male space. And if you go and you look at the majority of like the big name accounts like the ACLU or HuffPo or whoever, like it's always some way to denigrate men. It's an occasion to denigrate men. It's an occasion to redefine masculinity as anything ambiguous, anything that can possibly erase conventional masculinity on International Men's Day is popularized and run up the flagpole. Or if you are like, I know MRAs love this day, but like if you're an MRA or you are in any way associated with the men's rights movement, or like people mistake me for being an MRA. And I think some of the stuff that I talk about, sometimes I understand that because I'm not, I don't limit myself to talking about certain things with respect to like, what men's issues are. So people like kind of think that I'm an MRA. I don't really identify as an MRA, but so people will throw and say, well, you guys, you men's rights guys, you're spoiled children, or you're victims, or you think, anything that in any way aggrandizes or draws attention to the issues that men deal with in this century really is always looked down upon, because we presume men have an innate position of power. And like I was saying before, it's women who are established as in an innate position or a default position of respect, whereas men have to earn that. Men have to build themselves up to be something that's respectable. That's what makes male dominance hierarchies, of course. But so you go and you start a International Men's Day, and what happens is it's assimilated to serve the purposes of the same element that is causing those issues in the first place. So that's why I'm not a big fan of it. The other thing I don't like about International Men's Day is it's also an occasion for a lot of traditional conservatism and tricons and purple pill to sort of jump on top of it and to promote things like the Good Man Project, which is essentially feminism light. It's the male version of feminism. Like, guys, let's get together and be better men. Okay, what's the definition of being a better man? To do the things that women want us to do, to be better choices for women, to be better, be better. In fact, that's another thing is International Men's Day is very similar to Father's Day. When I talk about like the differences between Mother's Day sermons and Father's Day sermons in churches, it's night and day. Well, this is actually another occasion. This might as well be Father's Day because they do the same thing with it. They take the celebration of fathers and they turn it as far away from masculinity as they possibly can. So it's Special Persons Day, or it's the guy who is whoever fulfilling the role of father. It doesn't matter whether you're the biological father, and of course that feeds into paternity, the idea of war on paternity, or the idea that paternity shouldn't matter to men, and another way of socially engineering out something that has been an evolved part of our mental firmware for a very long time. It's just an occasion to draw attention to that. Now watch this. When I come back to this video like on March 8th, and then look at what was going on now, and look at how, like, maybe even save some of those posts from, what is it, November 19th. Save some of the, why is it November 19th? Save those posts, save the, go back and look at that kind of stuff on March 8th and look at the differences. You don't believe me that we live in a gynocentric society? There's your evidence right there. I'm not crying about it. And just because I'm bringing it up or calling attention to it does not mean that I in any way feel like I'm a victim as a result of it. But it is an example. It is an illustration of a gynocentric social order. Close your eye. I don't want to see it. Okay. Do whatever you want to, but it's still there right in front of you. Okay. I'm sorry. Some of you guys got a little bit past me here. If I missed you, please let me know. I think Sam's going to keep me up to date here. What is this one? Sam Whiskey. Ted Turner married Barbarella and divorced Hannah Y. Jane. Okay. Carl Bennington, thank you for your 99 cents. It was much appreciated. What else do we have here? Alex Schmidt. Should a male musician who is red pill aware ever join a female-fronted, female-dominated band? I don't know. I think it sort of depends on like where you are artistically. What's the lyrics going to be written about? What are you going to promote? What is the message of that band? I can talk your ears off about forming a band. I'm in a band right now, actually. I just started. So I committed to it really back in September. But I was, as a process, this has always been the same way for me anyways. I just didn't put a name on it, but like, I think forming a band is like forming a tribe. And I've only ever been in 2 bands where we had a female front man. And in most of those, in both of those, actually, the girl was either in some way involved with one of the band mates, not me, but one of the players in the band. And yeah, I think it depends on really what that band is about. Is it about activism? Is it about feminism? Because a lot of women, a lot of female front persons, excuse me, a lot of female lead singers. Today, it's being in a band, I think, at least for millennials, from a millennial perspective, it's an occasion, or it's an opportunity to sort of be like an activist. Like, I'm going to go up there and, like, what is it? What was the band? I'm really a band, but the Russian band that's all feminists, like Pussy Riot, I think is the name of the band. And their claim to fame is what Vladimir Putin like arrested them and put them in jail. Are they still in jail? I wonder if they're still in jail. I think if you're a red pill aware guy and you're in a band with a female, with other females, or that's kind of up to you. How can you, why are you in it, and what are you doing it for? Are you doing it because you enjoy the music and because you're with some really good players, or are you in it just because there's girls in it? There's a lot of reasons to be in a band that really don't have anything to do with being a good musician. I mean, you can be in a rock band and it can be all show, and you can, like, when I started playing out, when I wanted to learn to play music, I was really into music. I was really into heavy, hard hitting metal music. But let's be honest, I wasn't in it for the money. That wasn't a reinforcer for why I was playing in a band for as long as I did. I mean, I wanted to go travel and do things and have fun, but I wanted to get laid, and I did, and that was how I did it. That was my game for a long time. Was I got so good at it, I knew that I could go, to a club and within a reasonable, amount of time or with reasonable efficiency. I knew I could go home with a chick of my choosing at one point. Anyway, it took me a little while to get to there. So there's, what was it? Gene Simmons always says, guys get into bands, but it's not so they can go save Tibet. It's because they want to get laid. That's why guys get into. That's why guys pick up a guitar, because they see that like creative intelligence. It's a good segue into this. Is creative intelligence is a selected for I would say an attraction cue for women. I don't know if it's necessarily an arousal cue. You might be able to make an argument for it being an arousal cue. But when guys hit me up and they'll say, well, Rollo, I don't understand why Robert Smith from The Cure gets girls. Or why do these wimpy, emo, like skinny rail guys, how is it that they get so much tail? And here I am, I'm a big, burly, bodybuilding guy, and these guys get more play than I do. And I would say that, well, certainly there's pre-selection involved in it. The guy has a talent, right? I mean, he's got something that enraptures women. There's lots of underlying reasons why. I have a post called Tickle Me Emo, and it was basically based on this idea that women are selecting for guys who have or display creative intelligence. So whether you're this struggling self-tortured artist like that archetype, or you're the gothic emo kid who plays depressing music all the time, there's a certain appeal at a certain time. I think there's a certain demographic, or there's a certain like age range that women really like that, and then they have to sort of realize that either that's good for them or it's not good for them, or they want to get involved in it because they fall in love with the character. Women are like casting agents. They want that character, and that's just I played that character for a long time. Okay, Alex, thank you. I hope that helps. I would say just the quick answer is I think it just depends on the band and what it is that you're doing. Like, are you going to play Coachella? And what's your point in doing that? Like, do you think you're going to be in a successful, you're going to be in the next super group because of that? Or are you in it because those girls that you're with are really fantastic players? That might be good enough. Like people might find that, strange coming from me, but I think that there is something to be gained personally by working with really good artists. I've done so myself. I think I'm doing so right now. And I don't just mean music. I mean just like working and collaborating with artists. I think art and creativity is really one of those areas where men and women can sort of come together. Like people are going to throw me up, they run me up the flagpole for this one, but like I will say that women have a good have the same capacity, or the same, or it occurs to me anyways that women have the same capacity or have a similar capacity for creativity that men do. I think that's a human trait. That's something. Again, it goes back to the human condition being about discontent. I think women can be very creative. I think there are some very great musicians female musicians, female artists, female writers. I think there's some, when it comes to creativity, I don't think men have the market cornered for that. And I think that collaborating with other artists who can teach you something. I don't believe that like you should just in certain realms, I don't think that you should censor yourself or limit yourself from learning from a person, whether they're male or they're female. Now, depending on what you want to learn, that's a different thing. And I mean that in a creative sense. I don't mean that in like, oh, ask girls to go and give you dating advice. No, you're probably not going to get good advice because men and women are approaching intersexual dynamics from different perspectives. But when it comes to creativity, I mean, understand that women are going to approach creativity from a female life experience, like their existential experience, that they're going to approach it from that. But that doesn't mean you can't learn something from it. So, let's see. Oh, hey, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to hold on. Stop the truck. Here we go. Michael, as Rollo says, women feel entitled to put themselves in dangerous positions while demanding protection from random men. Yes, that was the other essay that I am currently penning right now as well, is I had a guy hit me up about why is it that women will put guys into, will encourage men to get into inherently unsafe positions themselves. And as this is a dynamic that was, maybe it was Dalrock that said this, but I know that this is an old PUA dynamic. It's called "Let's you and him fight." And what it is it's the propensity for women to want to test the guy that they're with by instigating a hostile or a potentially hostile situation with another guy to see what he will do, to like honk the horn. Hey, don't let him do that to you, honk the horn, or hey, you shouldn't talk to him like that, or that kind of instigating of, well, potentially violence, but that instigating conflict, not because they feel, well, maybe they do, maybe they feel like they want the indignation rush from it, but that indignation rush is part of wanting to test the guy that they're with, to say, is this guy really a pussy or is he not? Let's find out. Hey, he just said something bad he just hit my ass. He just pinched my ass. What are you going to do about it? Right? That is what's called "let's you and him fight." It's a shit test, but it's also a shit test that can get you into a lot of trouble. That's one aspect that I'm looking at. The other side of it is that me being in my line of work, which is the wine and spirits industry, I see this happen more and more, and I've been noticing this. That's why you probably brought this up, because I tweet this every now and then. I see women escalating inherently unsafe situations and circumstances at the gigs that I'm at anyways. I think, of course, alcohol exacerbates that. But what I see, and I see this in videos, like guys will send me videos of like a woman like just beating up on a guy, like seriously hitting and hurting this guy, like drawing blood and smacking the dude up, and the guy doesn't do anything. And again, that's kind of like a test, like to see if he'll push back. But women today, for as much as they complain about feeling I'm unsafe, or was it? I saw this one article about how women were wishing that there was a 9 o'clock curfew for men, and what women would do if men couldn't be on the streets after 9 o'clock. And I would go running in Central Park by myself, and I wouldn't have to worry. And so there's this sort of like pretense that men make the world so unsafe. Right. And so for all of that, I can't walk across a parking lot in the dark without having an escort, those kind of things, where we want to say, oh, okay, lady, I'll help you out. But yet I'm seeing these videos, and I'm seeing, again, a result of the global, globalization and global information market, I guess. But I'm at events, and I'm seeing women get into fights with either other women or they're pushing other guys because they feel entitled to safety and security. They know that the guy's not going to hit back. Usually they know that he's not going to hit back. Hopefully he's not drunk enough to hit back, but they know that if he does hit back, there'll be 10 guys in the same room that will jump on him and beat him to a bloody pulp if he does something like that. Even to bouncers at clubs, pointing at fingers and this kind of stuff, and escalating inherently unsafe situations because of two things. The first one is they have this sort of subconscious idea that they are entitled to security. Again, one more thing, like I'm entitled to respect because I'm a woman. Like you don't respect women. Women, I think, subconsciously believe that they are entitled to having their physical persons be safe when they are, in a social situation. Maybe not when they're alone, but certainly when they're in a social situation. And so you add alcohol to that. And by the way, being in my industry, I also know the statistics for the increase in women's alcohol consumption over the last 10 years. And women are drinking the same, if not more, than men have been drinking for a long time. And whether that's a result of like social conditions, I'm not going to speculate on that, but another physical difference between men and women. Women cannot hold alcohol like a man can. Sorry, ladies, you can't. You don't have the body weight. You don't have the same. There's an endocrine, there's a protein or something that breaks down alcohol that men have a better way of, or better, more efficient way, I guess, of processing alcohol than women do. The body weight thing is another thing. But so you add alcohol to that inherently unsafe situation, you put in that entitlement, you put in female hubris, and you put in solipsism, and you have an inherently unsafe situation where that woman believes she is entitled to it. And because she's never had a challenge, or she's never been pushed back, or she's never been hurt, she thinks she can escalate it even further because I'm a woman. Women deserve the respect, right? Women deserve protection. Sorry, I got a little bit off there, but I'm also working on an essay about that right now as well. Oh, what else do I have here? Sam, thanks for helping me out with keeping track of all of these. I think they're getting a little bit past me here, though. Oh. Is there any more that I missed? Excuse me, guys. Thank you for your patience. Here we go. Okay. BMF, does that mean you're a bad motherfucker? When spinning plates, dating non-exclusive, dating non-elusive. I like that. That's a really good mess up. I know you meant exclusive, not elusive. Does it matter? I would love it if women were non-elusive. Does it matter if she isn't monogamous only with me? I'm inclined to think it doesn't matter. Am I wrong? Okay, so what will happen, and this is sort of like the polyamory question. If you are spinning plates and you know that one of your plates is also seeing other guys, that's part of it. Either you drop that plate, if that bothers you, you drop that plate and you're doing sort of a one-sided exclusivity where it's like you expect exclusivity, but you don't want her to be going off and nailing other dudes. Okay. The difference between polyamory, at least from my take, the difference between polyamory and spinning plates is that polyamory presumes that there is still an implied state of monogamy between multiple people or between one person, and then that one of those or both of those people have the options to look outside that relationship to have sex. But polyamory implies that there is at least some kind of exclusivity to a point. So it's like monogamy. We want all the benefit. We want all the benefit, men and women. Okay, I'm not going to pick on any one, but men and women want the comfort and the familiarity and the regularity, I guess, of having a monogamous partner. But they also say, "But I want to nail other people. I want to get after it with other people." That right there, I think, is a recipe for disaster. That's why I do endorse plate spinning, obviously, being non-exclusive, but I don't think that any partner needs to have the implication that you're more special. You're my main partner, right? You're my main partner. Well, no, they're all my main partners. I think that if you are going to spin plates and be non-exclusive, then you have to accept that one of your plates or all of your plates can also go and be with other people. That's part of it. If you can't accept that, then don't spin plates from that perspective. You may want to do kind of like what Andrew Tate does, right? Got multiple girlfriends, and he's open to having other girlfriends while he and not many guys can do this. That's why I say sometimes you're going to have to accept that. You're going to have to accept her non-exclusivity along with your own. But if that's the case, then you've got 4 or 5 other girls that you have in your roster. And if you bench one because of that, then you move on to the other one. So I would say that I don't say it doesn't matter. The reason that you're asking me this question is because for men, we want to determine or we want to ascertain paternity. We want to know that if we're going to invest in parentally invest in a long-term relationship with a woman, that woman is going to be loyal to us because we want to ensure that the child is actually ours. That is something that you have to contend with when you are dealing with plate spinning. So remember, there is a definable difference between plate spinning and polyamory. Okay, thank you for that question. That was actually a really good one, man. Okay, support from Taiwan. Thanks, man. Ron, 25 Taiwanese, whatever those are. Just let you know your work has a huge impact here now. Thank you. More people are more aware of red pill concepts now. Oh, thanks, Rollo. Thank you. Had no idea that anywhere in Taiwan that they even knew me. That's great. Thanks, man. Spread the word. Pass it on, please. Pass on the book. I'm working with a guy right now to do a French translation. It doesn't help you in Taiwan probably, but I'm working with a guy right now who's just sort of signed up to do the French translation. I don't know what I'm going to do with it once I get that, but I'm looking into like 2020 as a year I want to start doing translation. Spanish is going to be another big one, and then possibly German. I need to get the big three done. I have a Polish translation, if you guys didn't know, and I really love the book. It's fantastic, but like Polish is a pretty specific language. And I love Poland. I love the guys. I love the people that I work with. It's great. There's actually a really big red pill contingency, I guess, in Poland, as you might guess, in Poland. But I want to get Spanish done, first of all, because I can speak Spanish. Well, more or less I can speak. I'm not fluent in Spanish, but I can speak Spanish well enough, or I can understand and read Spanish well enough so that I can actually look at, I don't know if I'd be able to proofread it, but I could certainly look at things to see whether this is a meaning or this is, structured the way I want. So Spanish is one thing. French I know nothing about other than that it's a Latin-based language. I probably would want to do Italian at some point too. German is certainly on the list, and I actually have a Korean translation of The Rational Male that I did way back in I think 2014, 2015, and I got paid for it once, and that was it. So somewhere out there's a Korean translation of my book that I licensed. So let's see, what else do we have here? YOLO, hey man, YOLO. Again, long time listener, first time caller. Hi, should psychologists treat men and women differently? Yes. If so, how? Where should red pill men seek mental help? Which psychology books do you recommend? Okay, first and foremost, I'm not a psychologist. I don't even pretend to be a psychologist. I have an interest in it. I have a bachelor's degree in behavioral psychology. So there was a time, like I was majoring in, I have a BFA as well, Bachelor of Fine Arts. There was a time where I considered going on and getting like a master's degree or maybe even a doctorate in psychology. I stopped because I realized the only way to make any real kind of money in psychology is to get your doctorate. And I was at a point in my life where I just didn't want to do that. I would like to, I guess, at some point, but I think that when it comes to psychology, most guys most people really think of psychology from the psychotherapy perspective. They think of psychology as just you going into the psychologist's office and you sitting on the couch and talking about your feelings, right? Or the guy sitting there with a notepad and he's writing. It's that psychotherapist kind of thing, or that touchy-feely humanist cognitive psychology. I think that psychology as it is today, popular psychology, the APA's psychology, is all about ideology right now. And if you understand anything about the APA determining that traditional masculinity should be a registered psychological disorder in the DSM, it's definitely crossed over into the ideological line. I'm not really a fan of Psychology Today. That website's kind of like the McDonald's of psychology. So where does a guy go? If you're looking for a good psychologist, I would always refer you to Dr. Sean Smith. He and I have disagreements on things. I think that he is kind of purple pill in some ways, but he's also very red pill about other things. So I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence right there, but I think with respect to, he knows his stuff. He's a clinical psychologist. I also know that there are at least a handful of psychologists right now who use my book as a starting point for men's therapy right now. When I was at the 2017-21 convention, I had two guys who told me that they were psychologists and they use my book in their practice. I also had guys, or still do right now, I have guys come up to me and say, I found a great psychologist and I found you through him because he uses your book as sort of a jump off to, my therapy or whatever it is I'm doing. So I don't think that it's necessarily mutually exclusive. I think you need to be careful of like who you get involved with. Most women are never going to, I don't think that women can really understand the male psychology anyways. So I would always suggest that if you feel like your mental health issues need something bigger and broader, and if you know that about yourself, don't come to me. Don't go to the manosphere. Go seek professional help. I'll be the first one to tell you that. When I do counseling, when I do phone calls or I do Skype calls or whatever, and I'm talking to guys, I make everybody agree to a policy statement. And like number one and number two on that list of criteria or policy statements is I'm not a psychologist. And if I feel at any time that you need somebody who is like more qualified than I am to do this, I will be the first one to say, look, go check out this guy, go seek professional help, and then come back to me and we can talk. Because the only thing I can give you from a therapy kind of thing, like I'm not a therapist. I'll counsel you. I'll tell you what I think from a red pill perspective. And I think people value my opinion and my advice, and such as it is, or I think really more my observations. I'm glad people like that. I'm glad I can do that. And I want to be able to help. Obviously, that's why I've been doing this. But there are certain parts of men's psyches that I would say, look, I'm out of my depth, and I'll pass you off to somebody else. So I think that like books, like I could recommend you recommend you some behavioral books, like to understand like operant conditioning and things like B.F. Skinner. I could point you in that direction. I would say I could tell you what I would avoid. I would avoid any like Jungian therapy. I would avoid any cognitive humanist stuff. I think one of the reasons why sort of life coaching is a big deal right now is because guys don't like the idea of going and sitting on a couch and talking about their feelings for $75 an hour to a woman, or they are going to marriage counseling, which is essentially you and your wife, coming to terms with how you're going to split up and not how you're going to stay together in front of oh man, what is it? I think there's a show on Showtime right now where they follow a female therapist with like different couples. I wish I knew the name of the show right now. I really wanted to see that. I really wanted to get into that so that I could sort of do case studies on that one. I might do that at some point, assuming I can get beyond the copyright issues. There might be a copyright thing on YouTube for doing something like that, but I really like to do that. Psychology books. Here's what I would suggest: is if you are looking for mental help, look for a male psychologist. Try to find a guy who is, I guess, red pill aware. They are out there. I don't know where I know you're in Norway right now, Yellow. So if this is for you, or maybe it's for one of your friends, just be careful of that. Always, if you have to go to therapy and you are going to sort of like a modern cognitive therapist or humanistic I think what people don't really realize about psychology is there's different areas or different fields of psychology. Like my field is behavioral psychology, and I would probably, were I to go back to school again, I would probably change that to evolutionary psychology. So there's an evo psych side of things. That's probably not going to be therapeutic for you to understand the principles and ideas of evolutionary psychology. Behavioral psychology, yeah, you can use it in therapy, but I think most people think of psychologists as like being the humanist, like we're going to sit down and talk about our feelings, or Maslow's pyramid of hierarchy of needs, like those kinds of things. Remember that that's not all psychology is. There's much more to it than just that. There is actually a hard science element of psychology. That's why I got into behaviorism, because it was much more nuts and bolts than self-reporting stuff. So I would say this. I don't know exactly what your problem are. So I think it depends kind of on the problem that you think you have that you want to deal with. I'm not putting down, therapy at all. I think that some guys get a lot out of it. I know women get a lot out of it. I think women get more out of psychotherapy than men do, because it's based in that communication that they like. So they look forward to talking to their therapist every day because it's that face-to-face communication that they would otherwise have with their girlfriends. So there's that communication aspect. And yes, there is a big difference between the way that psychologists, male psychologists and female psychologists, interrelate with their clients. So just some things to think about. Hit me up, Yolo, in my email, and I'll let you know a little bit more. I think that also, if there's any books on psychology, I don't really know any to solve a particular problem. So I would need to know what it is you are seeking help for, I think, first. Okay, what else? Chase Robido? Rollo, I think TRP needs to address the dangers for men that are virgins more. What would those dangers be? The dangers of self-harm or the dangers of becoming a violent incel? I think we need to address what those dangers are in the first place, or what you think of as dangers. If I take you for what my basic understanding of when guys say something like this, we need to address the dangers of virgins. I usually look at those in terms of self-harm, or like you get a guy like what's that dude? And I forget the guy's name. The guy who drove the van in Canada, Alex Manassian. Alex Manassian. Like, that's a danger. Yeah, of course it is. I think there's probably a greater danger of men killing themselves. I mean, we're already seeing, like, over the last 10 years, I'm just unfortunately reading another survey or research about how young men are killing themselves now at a much higher rate. When we look at male suicide, the highest demographic across the board is men between the ages of 45 and about 60 or 65. That's the highest, right? 5 times the amount. But we're also seeing increases across the board, and even young men are now taking their lives at a much greater rate. To sort of add more to that, Chase, also this is the GSS study that came out about 4 months ago, maybe 5 months ago, about how men between the ages of 18 and 29 are at, like, it's the incidence of sexlessness for men 18 to 29 has tripled in the last like 7 or 8 years, I think, and is only going up. Whereas for women, it's at the same, or it's just maybe just incrementally a little bit more. But it's guys between the ages of 18 and 29 who aren't having sex. Women are still having sex. So what does that tell you? That's the unflattering part of that study, is that while men have had their sexlessness tripled in the last 8 years, women have only seen a little marginal bump. So women are getting laid, but they're getting laid with the guys who aren't getting laid, right? I mean, there still has to be that demographic of that 20% that women are focusing on in order to have sex. All that, when that came out, of course, all we talked about was like, here's another example or another manifestation, I think, of hypergamy. But nobody wants to look at that. They want to say, oh, look at these incels. Oh, it's because men they're not doing the work. They're not living up to their expectations. It's because men's fault for not getting laid. No, it's because of the dynamics. It's because of how we're wired. It's because we've structured a society around creating a demographic of virgins who are going to self-harm, or they're going to harm other people, to be at a manifestation of their angst, of their frustrations, of not being able to solve their reproductive problems. So if there's a danger for men who are virgins, it's usually because we are leaning now towards a female-initiated polygamy, really. Women sharing the top 20% of guys. Like I always said, women will share, well, this is a Pook quote. I'm not going to take responsibility for this. This is a Pook quote. And Pook said, women would rather share a successful alpha than be saddled with a faithful beta. And here it is right now. Here we are. We're about to enter the next decade, 2020, still true to this day, and is only becoming more and more apparent But yet, well, we don't know. We're not gonna look at this. We're not gonna talk about this. It's International Men's Day. It must be their fault. It must be their fault for their own sexlessness. Men aren't owed sex. Okay, nobody said they were. But yeah, so what are the dangers? What's going to happen if there's more virgins than there are non-virgins? Where's the breaking point? Where's the tipping point? I don't know. Let's see. Michael, these are good. These are really good questions. I agree that women are opportunists. Women had to be in order to survive in the past. Yes, that's why I've always talked about this. Either their tribe is conquered, they would have to join a new tribe to be killed, or loyal hoes died. Yes. In fact, you know what, Mike? You can find that in the Bible. The Lord wants that to happen. That's what the Lord told the tribes of Israel, or certain tribes of Israel, anyways, is to go in and kill all the men folk, kill all the women who have known a man, and kill all the boys, but save the virgins for yourself. Right? I mean, it's right there, black and white. That's exactly how tribal human beings lived for a very long time. And yes, you are correct. That. Of course, I'm being facetious, but that's the war brides idea that I put out a long time ago. What else do we have here? What else do we have for you today? Let's see. Gosh, you guys are coming up with good stuff today, man. Thank you very much for being so engaged. This is awesome, you guys, especially for noon on a Wednesday. This is good stuff. Okay, I got this one. I'm probably skipping a few here. Sorry about that. Let me actually call this up. Thank you, Sam, for keeping track of these. I'm probably going to have to read out a few of these right here. Carl Bennington, have you read the book Relentless by Tim Grover? No, I have not. What is it about? Tell me what it's about. Is it one of those more like, is it like a Jocko Willink where you get up at get up at 3:30 in the morning and get it done kind of thing? That's what it sounds like to me. I should go look it up. I probably will. Let's see. Psychologist Chase, I answered your question. Ibo, sorry, Ibo, I blew right by me and I didn't even see it. Hang on. Let me go see if I can find it. Oh well, sorry, my friend. I will. I'll read it out instead. Here we go. Ivo says, "Woman I barely know instantly agreed to Netflix and chill. In my past, it was mostly a test, and I could barely get the same day lay. I used freeze out, etc. What would you do? Pickup artist techniques to use for what? To get past last minute resistance." To imply that you want to have sex with this person. I need to you guys can run me up the flagpole for this, but I really think I need to get back with Alan Roger Curry. Alan's hit me up, and other people are saying we need to get together for another chat. I haven't talked with Alan since the 2018-21 convention. And I know Alan sort of has decided that he doesn't want anything to do with the red pill, and I can understand given recent circumstances. I don't think that he and I are still on good terms, as far as I know. I would very much like to talk to him about it, but the reason I'm bringing his name up is because mode one is sort of the direct route, and sort of like why are you playing games? Why are you getting to the point where Netflix and chill is even something? Pickup artist techniques. If you really want the techniques, here's what they are: is a takeaway, do hot cold. Well, it's kind of like this. This is like, guys hate this because it seems like female tactic. It seems like you are using the tactics women use. Like if there's a concept called coquetry. Okay, it's hot and cold. It's like you're hot. She's hot with you. She wants to. She's flirty with you, and then she turns away. And Pat Campbell's talked about this before. Like, women know the power of Kino, they know the power of touch. So they're touching you, they're affectionate, and then they cut you off because they know that there's actually a physical element to really conditioning you. That's what that is. Dr. Diana Fleischman's talked about this before, and I like her. I understand why she does this, but I still think it's kind of like sexist of her, but okay, whatever. You can train your boyfriend. You can train your girlfriend as well through operant conditioning. I've said this since like back when I was, a moderator on SoSwap back in the mid 2000s. It was my background in behavioral psychology that prompted me to think that a lot of the tactics and a lot of the things that women do with guys is really operant conditioning. It is intermittent reinforcement of desired behavior. And if a man does something she doesn't want, then she freezes him out. Well, oddly enough, guys like Mystery figured that out back in 2001, 2002 in alt-fast seduction or Mystery method, right? So, but it's not okay for men to do that because women are supposed to be the primary sexual selectors in a gynocentric social order. So when men do it and pull the same thing that women do, then that's bad and that's evil, and we need to create laws so men can't do that. But when women train their boyfriends, that's a-okay, and that's just fine. So why you get to a point where you're doing the Netflix and chill thing, like Alan Roger Curry would like hack up in disgust. I'm sure he'd be like, "Why are you playing our games? Why don't you just tell her you want to have sex? And if she says no, then you just move on." That's the pragmatic approach. I get it. If you are in a position where you have to get past last minute resistance, ask yourself why you are in that position. Like that's your answer. I keep trying to make this a I want guys to be able to sort of come to this on their own, but like the medium is the message. What is she doing? It's not her words. It's not her, like her playing games. It's not the game she's playing with you. It's the fact that she is playing games, right? It's the fact that you're in a position where you're trying to figure out what the PUA techniques would be once you're there. I think PUA techniques are very good at teaching guys game, teaching men the behavioral aspects of why it is that women are doing what they're doing. Red pill, of course, is the theory, and understand, each one is incomplete without the other. But after you have that understanding, that's when you as a guy have to decide that, I'll play this game or I won't play this game. And if I am going to play this game, I better be damn good at it, because it has to serve my interests, and it has to be something that is, if I'm going to play this game, if I'm going to use PUA tactics, I'm talking techniques, if I'm going to use pickup artistry with a woman, why am I doing it? Am I using it because I enjoy it? Some guys do. I mean, it's an art, right? It's almost like improvisational theater for some guys. So, okay, I would even accept that as an answer, right? Like, okay, you enjoy it. You enjoy, like, guys have hit me up and they've said, are you like the thrill of the hunt kind of guy, or are you just all about results? Like critics of PUA will always say, well, you have to spam approaches, and you spam 100 approaches and you get one return. That sucks. I would hate to have 1% turn or whatever. It's like, yeah, but that's not the point. The point is the learning. The point is the doing, not necessarily the result, right? Guess what? If you're running game and you're not getting laid, you're still not getting laid if you're not running game. Right? So what is it that you want to do? Are you there to learn? Are you there to master the skills? Are you there to understand the interplay between men and women? If you're not learning anything, then I suggest go home and jerk off, because that's more productive. But I would say if you are in that position, if you're using freeze outs and takeaways, I'm not going to say that isn't effective or that's not a big deal, but what's the end result? Why are you doing what you're doing? If it's because you're learning and because you enjoy it, all right. But if it's, well, I can't get it, I need to get a higher return on my higher return on investment for the effort that I'm spending in this, then don't look at it in those terms. Yeah, like I was going to say is Alan Roger Curry would hack up in disgust at that and be right. I remember rightfully so. What else? I got another one I blew past here really quickly. God damn it. There we go. Where did you go? Trying to keep up here. This is Gunther. Gunther. I like that name. Comment on men's sexual strategies for men over 50. Okay, well, the first thing I'm going to do, excuse me, and yes, Domain, I saw yours there. I'll pick you up in just a second. If you're over 50, I've done, the first thing I'll suggest is that you go and you look at the video I did with my friend from Divorced After 50, Marco. Look at his stuff. I'll point you in the right direction anyways. I'll give you a link. But I did a video with him about, let's see, I was back in the old studio. So that would have been, I think I did it back in March or April is when I did that interview with him. There's a lot of good techniques in there. My first inclination is for you to go and read an essay that I have called The Mature Man. And in The Mature Man, you have, like, guys will ask me this all the time is they'll say, well, I'm divorced and I want to get back in the sexual marketplace. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? I'm trying to get, they jump on Tinder and they go, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'm doomed. I'll never find a girl. I think that if you are getting back into the sexual marketplace at 50 or older, you have to realize, you have to accept that you know nothing about anything. You have to accept the fact that you need to, I would suggest this, actually, go read Mastery by Robert Greene, and then bust yourself down to being an apprentice to learning like modern game. If you don't run to Tinder and think it's a catch-all, it's a panacea for you, right? It's online game is where most guys run to when they should be focusing on like improving the quality of themselves. Are you in shape? Are you going to the gym? Number one, go to the gym, get yourself into shape, become a better version of you. You can do it. You can put on muscle at any age. I've heard that from like a lot of personal trainers and a lot of guys. And I think that's true. I think you can put on muscle at any age. I think you can do better. Get yourself into better physical shape, get yourself into better mental shape, understand red pill dynamics, understand why women do what they do, expect from women, trust women to be women. That's another thing. But read The Mature Man, because a lot of guys, when they're 50, their biggest complaint is this, is I can't find a girlfriend. I can't find a girl who doesn't have any baggage. I can't find a girl who isn't a single mom. You know, I'm looking for women who are like, you're 50 years old, right? You're looking at women in the 40-year-old range. Even to go back as far as 30 would be like, oh, I couldn't do that. They're too young. So they start looking for women who are, I mean, imagine this. So you have the choice. You have the choice of dealing with women between the ages of 40 and 50 years old. Let's just call that your age range right there. Like, what was it? Keanu Reeves, right? Do you really want, make sure that the girl who's younger than you actually doesn't look older than you? There's some advice for you right there. So you got that age range. Let's just say it's between like 40 and 50, or maybe you want to even go as young as 35. The women in that demographic will most likely won't be childless. If they are, there's a reason that they're childless. So you're kind of screwed either way. And so you need to kind of accept for yourself what the environment that you're in. If you don't like that environment, get out. If you say, well, the women in the United States, or the women in New York, the women in my area, you can't find one okay, well, if it is that important to you, then get out. Just like Tate would tell you the same thing. In fact, it was the first thing out of his mouth when we were talking about this in our interview, was he hates listening to guys complain about, well, you know, women are no good in this country. Good, go. Get out, go to Estonia, go to the Philippines, go somewhere else. If you really feel that strongly about it, why are you still here? So there's certain places that you should start as a 50-year-old guy. My suggestion is well, first of all, I would tell you, go and read The Mature Man, that essay. And then I have another one called Midlife Crisis, which you're probably already past. You're not, I don't call it a crisis, it's more like an epiphany. But you have to accept that you're where you're at, and you have a higher value as at 50, or put this, you have the potential to have a higher value at 50. And you don't, most guys who are 50 don't realize their inherent value being an older guy, so long as they have their shit together, so long as you have lived up to your best potential. Even if, like, I hate to think of this, but I don't think of men's sexual market value peak years as really being much more than, like, say 37. But if you go and you read some of these, like, research and statistics and all that, even Huffington Post will say, well, we'll quote research that says men at 50 are at their highest, at their peak potential. And I disagree. I do. Just hear me out. I disagree. I don't think that's your peak potential. I think you should be hitting your stride right around 36 years old. But let's just say, for sake of argument, that they're right. Okay, guess what? Now you still have better potential. You have you have a more marketable person at 50 than women who are 50 do. Women who are 50, women who are like in their late 40s are entering perimenopause. That's another thing to keep in mind. Do you want to get with a woman who is going to be menopausal within 4 years? What are you looking for as a 50-year-old guy? Are you looking to just get laid? Or are you looking for a long-term relationship? Would you describe yourself as being blue? You need to do some assessment. And those essays that I suggested will help you do that assessment. Are you in the sexual marketplace because you want another wife? Are you there because you want to restart this? Are you there because you never got married and you're looking for somebody who, you finally are ready to say, hey, look, I want to get into a long-term relationship? That's a valid thing. But be realistic about your environment, to the women that are in your marketplace. If you're looking for somebody, like I said, in that age range between 40 and 50 years old, you're going to be dealing with baggage, most likely. And the women who are actually single and childless at that age, there's a reason why they are. And it's up to you to kind of figure that reason out. My best advice for guys, and I told Marco this too, my best advice for guys is to be cognizant of your value to women at 50 years old, or what women will perceive your value should be. If you read The Mature Man, that's the essay that I think I put that. Did I put that in the first book? There, I might have put it in the third book. I have an essay called The Mature Man where I covered all this stuff way back in the day, like 2011, I think is when I wrote that. And in that, there is a perception, and it's like an archetypal perception of men who are older. Like when I talk about like technique, I'm talking about PUA techniques. When I talk about things like amuse mastery, or that's so cocky funny, but amuse mastery is a really good one, because it's much easier for you to have mastery if you're an older guy, because women expect that. Women who are looking for like even younger women who are looking for an older guy, they expect something. They expect you to be made by them. That's why women go for guys who are older. Like women tend to prefer, what's this? Keanu's a perfect 10. Let me get to that one. Actually, let's throw that one on the board here, because Ibo is contributing to this conversation as well. Keanu is a perfect 10. He has everything. Do you think men in general go for older women because they have bad experiences with young hot women? No, I don't. I think, honestly, and I discussed this with Pat, I think that Keanu is doing this because he thinks that it adds to his character, that it adds to the character that he's playing. There's no way that Keanu Reeves just casually started dating this woman and taking her out and showing her off, looking as old as she is, right? She is younger than he is. She's almost a decade younger. She's 9 years younger than he is. Do you think for a second that he doesn't know that perception? That he's like oblivious to how people are going to interpret that? The woman that looks like she is his mom? He knew exactly what he was doing. I bet his PR agent was just giddy when those pictures came out. So I have to think that a lot of this is sort of just like a play on his own personal brand. That's number one. Your other part of you, actually, let's put that up there. Excuse me. So Keanu is a perfect 10. He's a perfect 10 to women who want him to play a particular role. They want him, they love him that much more because he's with a woman who's age appropriate. And you get those women who will say, yeah, I love him so much more now because he's with an older woman. Or like Helen Mirren was getting tweets saying, congratulations on you and Keanu. And do you think for a second that he didn't see that coming? I don't. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. And he also knew that, like you, he would be in some way more endearing to women who expect or who want him to play that highly feminized role, which is he does the hover hands with all of his shots with women in it, like when he's doing like casual, candid shots with women, he never touches them. I think that this, like, for him to be with her is one more addition to him playing into what he thinks as what most beta blue pill men think is expected of them. Is he wants to be a role model he wants to epitomize what a feminine centric society wants men to do. They want men to they want men to sign on to the female mating strategy. And he's the epitome of it. He's showing you right now, hey girls, not only do I do hover hands, not only am I, some brooding, introspective guy who also, by the way, works with female directors. I mean, look at everything that he's done. This is endemic of a guy, or this is endemic of a guy who wants to play, or is trying to play, the role of a guy who follows along with the feminine imperative. And that's why women love him. Or else they hate him because they're like, why would she be with him? Or why is he with her? I'm younger, I'm hotter, I'm tighter. I would do anything to get with a guy like that. So there's that frustration aspect of it as well. I gotta go catch this one here real quick. Where'd it go? There it is. Let's see. No name. You think gaming women with different SMV is different? Sometimes I can get an 8 easily than getting a 5 or 6. Yeah, I'll tell you why here in a minute. And also, you think comfort stage is really unnecessary in gaming. All right, so here's my take on that. Is one of the things about sexual market values, most women believe that they are higher than they actually are in sexual market value. Women that we would realistically, generally, in the global sexual marketplace, realistically, that we would rate as between a 5 and a 6. You're looking at a 5, okay? You're looking at baseline, top of the bell curve, right? You got the 2s on one side, and you got on the other side is a 9.5 or a 10, right? Middle of that bell curve is women who are 5, maybe a 6. Those women tend to be the ones that have a higher opinion of themselves, and tend to be the one, because there's more of them, right? They tend to be the ones who are more susceptible to having a higher opinion or overestimating what their sexual market value is, because there's more of them. So it's almost like a statistical thing rather than like, well, women of 5 and 6 should only know that they're 5 and 6. That doesn't happen. And so why is that? Well, because women who are 5, 6, maybe even 7s have a higher incentive to think more of themselves and to like feel like an entitlement to more than what their sexual market value actually is deserving. Because remember, hypergamy never seeks its own level. It's always looking for something greater. Those are the women who have a greater necessity to think more of their own sexual market value. Whereas an 8 or a 9, I don't believe in a straight 10, but I think a woman, let's just say an 8 or a 9, she doesn't have that incentive because it's already known to her that she's an 8 or a 9, because she's probably gone through a life of having men reward her with attention just automatically. So she doesn't have to build the same kind of mental structures that a woman who is a 5 or a 6 has to in order to think more of herself. So that's why sometimes you have a little bit easier time with an 8 than you do with a 5 or a 6, because all of that mental gymnastics that those 5s and 6s have to use doesn't get in the way. If you understand what I'm saying, like people always say, and this is kind of I don't know if this is really a stereotype, but a lot of guys think, and I've heard this from PUAs as well, is that it's easier to game girls who are like 8s and 9s because they have like lower self-esteem. I don't necessarily think that that's true, but I think that 8s and 9s don't have the same amount of approaches on them, by like they'll get all kinds of like attention and reinforcement by orbiters and stuff like that, but it's very rare for men to approach anyways right now. But certainly like gorgeous women who men like self-defeat. Like if you go and you read the Iron Rules of Tomassi, Iron Rules number 8 is never, always let a woman figure out why she won't fuck you. Never do it for her. There's a reason why I made that an iron rule, because guys will self-defeat. They'll go, oh, that girl's out of my league. There's no way I could get with a girl that hot, so I'm not even going to try. Well, enough guys do that, and they say, forget it. I'm not going to even bother with it. What does that leave? Well, it leaves the guys who are either way below an 8 with the most irrational self-confidence to go up and do that, or it's the rare guys who are also 8s or 9s themselves to approach those women. And sometimes that ends up being a hindrance to women. So guys won't approach a gorgeous 8 or a 9 because they're intimidated, because they think they're out of their league, or they think that if they do so, they think that getting blown out by an 8 or a 9 is in some way more painful a rejection or a bigger deal than it is to get blown out by a 5 or 6. Whereas I would argue the opposite. If you get blown out by a 9 and then you get blown out by a 6, the 6 is actually worse, because the 6 is building all of this sort of, like I said, that mental architecture, that scaffolding around why she should be an 8 instead. And so you have to deal with all that crap. And then so you've got a 6 that blew you out based on all of that mental crap. Whereas the 9 might just be like, well, she might be a sweet 9 that says, oh, sorry, thanks, but no thanks kind of thing. At least you tried. Whatever, like always, our Pook says, rejection is better than regret. Well, I think it would be better to be rejected by a 9 than to get rejected by a 6. So some things to think about. And also the comfort stage. Okay, so here's the deal with the comfort stage. Comfort stage is part of, one of these days, I really got to go back and do a review of Mystery Method, because what you're talking about was introduced in Mystery Method. And there's 3 steps, or 3 stages, I should say, to a seduction that Mystery broke down. And you can go find those. All you got to do is just look up Mystery Method on YouTube, and you'll find out what those are. He's got a lot of material that's still around. Some of it I think is dated, but I think a lot of it is still very relevant. And one of those stages is the comfort stage. And I'm not saying that comfort isn't a necessity. It's actually part of the seduction. I just think it's overemphasized by beta guys, by blue pill guys, because they've been taught for their entire lives that the only way that a woman is going to have sex with them is if she's comfortable. And that's always the rejection or the filibuster that women will use with guys who are like beneath them, or they're trying to determine whether they're like, below their sexual market value, or they should give these guys a shot. And so women will say, I can't, I'm just not comfortable. I just don't want to have sex with you because I'm not comfortable. If that's what you're getting, and you're spooning on the bed, or you're Netflix and chilling, and you're never getting anywhere in a Netflix and chill, whatever, she just needs to be comfortable. It's not that she needs to be comfortable. because sex is about spontaneity, good sex anyways. I've always said this, is that, and this is another iron rule of Tomassi, is that any woman that makes you wait for sex, or by her actions is, directly or indirectly implying that she is making you wait for sex, the sex is never worth the wait. Because it's not because you wouldn't enjoy it, it's because there's some sort of mitigating factor that is depressing that natural arousal and attraction between you and her. And usually what women say is, I need to be comfortable with you. No, she doesn't. Sex is about urgency, good sex. I mean, like genuine desire sex, enthusiastic consent sex, that is about spontaneity. That is about urgency. That is about anxiety, like competition anxiety. Like, if I don't have sex with this guy, I really, really want to get with this guy, but if I don't, one of my competitors is going to get with this guy. This is not something women are thinking about. This is not a cognitive process. This is an unconscious hindbrain, lizard brain, back and forth. And so sex is about urgency. Sex is about like real good mutual desire, like the kind of sex that's going to keep you together. Like, if you want to talk, I want to get to a long-term relationship, fine, but you're not going to get to that point unless you have that kind of, I can't wait to tear his clothes off, tear her clothes off kind of arousal with that person. And comfort, rapport, familiarity, predictability, all of that, keynote touch, oxytocin, all that stuff is anti-seductive. It is, if you think about it, it's the antithesis of the feelings or the arousal that prompts like hormonal, desire, genuine desire. So this is another really, I should probably talk about this at some point, but because we're still in No Nut November, right? But like for a long time, and maybe even still, guys will say, well, you need to go jerk off before you go out with this girl. That way you'll be relaxed. And that way you won't have to worry about, coming on too strong, and you won't have the need, right? And that is exactly the opposite of what you should do, because women will instinctually pick up on your cues of desire because you have a genuine desire for that girl. And if you're going to try to some way diffuse that with oxytocin, which is a post-orgasm hormone, or is it a hormone? Chemical, let's just say. Oxytocin comes after an orgasm. So you're relaxed, you have those feelings of trust, you have that kind of, like, it's a post-orgasm thing, whereas testosterone and all of the dopamine that hits your system when you're flushed and you want to have sex with this woman, you're going to have behavioral cues that are going to be manifested as a result of that. Whereas if you have your system is flooded with oxytocin or progesterone, whatever, the post-orgasm hormones that are going to depress, you're going to have behaviors that are manifest as a result of that. Well, those will be shooting you in the foot with a woman who you're trying to say, hey, look, I want to have sex with you, I want to get with you, those kinds of things. So that's why I say, I'm not saying the comfort stage is necessarily unimportant. I just don't think it's as important as the urgency and the arousal phases. And the reason why guys overemphasize the comfort stage is because they are uncomfortable with the hotter, heavier, because they just have no skill with it. They think, because they believe the lie. They believe that everything women have told them, that I need to be comfortable to have sex with you. So I'm going to make her the most comfortable I can possibly make her. Because that's deductive male logic. How can I solve this problem? I'm going to put her on cloud nine. I'm going to give her a foot rub, and we're going to massage oil and rose petals on the bed. And I'm going to give her a big teddy bear, and I'm just going to make her know that I'm going to be there for her no matter what, You're shooting yourself in the foot. You need to emphasize the desire side, the enthusiastic consent side. And guys want to push past that, because they want to push past the urgency and the arousal phase, because either A, they have no skill at it, or B, they're just uncomfortable with it because they've been told their entire lives that, the key to getting with a woman is to, make her as comfortable as possible. Well, yeah, in the long term, in long term maybe that's true, but in the short term sexual, let's see what else. I know I missed one, Sam. Sorry. Let me see. Is that you sending me more stuff? No, it's not. Okay. Okay, I already talked about that one. This is another one. Paranoid after party, $10. Thanks, brother. 27 working on game. Okay. Attorney, live by campuses, going out. You can actually type this stuff out, guys. Should I have a recording device for protection? Yes, you need a body cam when you're doing this. Had a scare last week where the friend of a girl I pulled texted me insane accusations the next day. It's getting to that point, isn't it? I think it's, I was talking about the the proposition anyway of legislating against men being able to falsely represent themselves. And if a woman has sex with the guy under false pretenses, or she believes something about, like, you believe you were an attorney and you really weren't, and she had sex with you, and she finds out later you're a barista at Starbucks, then that's rape. So I think that right now, even if you did, let's just say for sake of argument, you had some little teeny tiny little camera in your classes or on you or something like that, and you're recording it. I think in some states that's illegal without them knowing it. I also think that revenge porn laws are going to work against you for those things, for having a recording device. Because what will happen is it will be like, oh, you had sex with this girl, yeah. She claimed I raped her. Okay, well, I've got the video evidence that says, or audio. What do you say? Audio record. So you have an audio recording device, right? I think, well, maybe for audio it might be a little different. I do think that revenge porn will end up being legislated to exclude. It will be inadmissible. Like, it'll be because of video, because of if the woman didn't know she was being recorded. I think that there will be a greater risk for an attorney or for like a prosecuting attorney to say, well, that's revenge porn, and we're going to add one more indictment on to your, to you being arrested for sexual misconduct. Even if the audio would completely exonerate you, I think that at some point we're going to legislate. We're going to get to the point where we legislate complete compliance from men, so that one way or the other, if a woman, like, we believe all women, whatever a woman says about a guy will be automatically believed and will be automatically, used to put that guy in jail. And people say, well, that's a slippery slope. You're going too far. Well, look where we're at right now. I think enthusiastic consent will end up being the benchmark for rape cases or even sexual harassment cases. I would say if you have a recording device, if you have and I'm looking at the rest of this thing here, it says you have an audio recording device. Okay, well, what's an audio recording device going to do for you, really? Here's another thing. If you have an audio recording device, what's to say that you can't do deepfake? Right now, I've seen these really great deepfakes of Dr. Jordan Peterson, where he's talking about how he's a neo-Nazi and loves Hitler or something like that. So I think at one point, it's not going to make much difference. It's going to get to, I think it's going to get so bad with women using Me Too and using false accusations that guys are simply not going to want to. All right, hey, MGTOW lawyer, look, I said this in the beginning, dude. Tate is canceled on me at the last minute. We're going to do his interview, or our talk is going to be tomorrow, this time tomorrow. So yes, he will be. He just couldn't get on because he's got internet issues at his Airbnb right now because he's on the road. So yes, we will be talking tomorrow, but right now simply can't do it. So there you go. Anyways, I don't think that recording devices are going to be quite the fail-safe that I think a lot of guys think that they will be. At what point do you go, okay, I'm going to go out on a date with you, but understand that I've got this recording device the whole time? Imagine having to say that at the beginning. And I think what will happen is, before, what'd you say here? I'm sorry. Before hooking up, get verbal consent from the woman will be on the recording. Okay, but imagine you, okay, how are you going to do that? How are you going to say that? Okay, I'm going to touch, because depending on the state you're in, you've got to say, okay, I'm going to touch your boob. Okay, I'm going to touch your hips. Okay, I'm going to get after it with, I'm going to go down on you. Is that okay? Yeah? Okay, I'm going to do X, Y. Imagine you doing that at every step, because if you miss one step and she says no, and here's the other thing. At one stage, at some point, it's not going to matter, because women will be able to retroactively accuse you of sexual misconduct, or retroactively like regret rape, right? Well, I gave him consent then and it really felt good, but in hindsight, I really feel like I didn't want to have sex with him, so it was rape. Okay, you're rape. Go ahead. I wasn't enthusiastic about it. See, that's why I keep stressing enthusiastic consent. You guys remember what happened with Aziz Ansari? That's a really good illustration of this. You've got Aziz Ansari, where the girl is into him. He's got her back at his place. Here's your last minute resistance, right? How do I get past those techniques? So you do that. She gave the guy a blowjob. She was all about it. She gave him oral pleasure. And then he wanted to say, okay, well, he wanted to push it and say, hey, let's have sex. I'm getting a hummer from this girl. Why not go and, let's do it. And then that's when she just backed up off of it, and he pushed a little too much. So while one act was enthusiastic enough to want to blow him, then when he wants to have sex with her, that's when women have that regret rape thing. That's when women say, well, it was gray area sex. It was meh sex. It was, I did it because it was more convenient to do it and get it over with than it was to try to put him off. I can point you to at least 3 different articles where women have talked about this. And that's why I made a big deal about enthusiastic consent. So even when you have that consent, even if you have video, audio evidence of her saying, yes, I will have sex with you, I will sign this paper, 6 months later, when she says, you know what, that guy's kind of creepy. That was kind of stupid of me. I shouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have given him consent had I known what I know today. Your Honor, I think you raped me. That's where we're going with this right now. So what's the key? And I realize this because people hate it when I start talking about this, because they think I'm going down. I'm doing the slippery slope thing. Right? I'm saying, well, it's going to get so much worse that blah blah blah. These are what's possible. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen. I said those are what's possible. And it's possible, and guys will say, well, that's only in your society. Well, guess what? There's a global sexual marketplace, and this society and these rules and this feminine imperative is becoming the global imperative right now. So yeah, I mean, protect yourself. I'm not saying don't. I'm not like, I still think guys should learn game. I still think guys should approach. I still think guys should, I mean, realistically, I think you will be understanding what you're getting yourself into, of course, and using proper precautions, I guess. I mean, but also understanding who you're with and knowing when to pull out and when to push forward are 2 different things. You could also, of course, just use mode 1. I'm also thinking that maybe mode 1 is not such a bad idea. Will you want to have sex with me? Are you good? Yeah, I got it on tape right here on my body cam or my body collar. Here, let's go. Okay, well, even if you do that, does that mean you can still get popped for rape? I think I missed one, Sam. It's 10 euros. 10 euros from Adam Simons. Sorry, I can't go back and pick it up here. I already blew past me, guys. I hear 2 different strategies when it comes to dealing with drama. Some say, be calm and zen. I'm a reed, I can bend. And don't engage. Some say, give her the indignation she craves. Which one is it? Okay. So if you use indignation, because women have an innate need for indignation, let's clarify that for a second here. I have a very, let's say, seminal post called Indignation, and in it I make these outrageous claims that women have an innate need for the chemical rush that they get when they feel indignation. That's what keeps them alive. That's what makes them want more. Like, why do women live vicariously through their girlfriends? Is it because they're just drama queens and they're just, because they're, just crazy? No, because that's part of female nature, is to want to feel the hormonal endorphin chemical rush that comes from indignation. Why do you think that daytime television has been so popular? Why are romance novels popular? Why are it's really one of the most popular things I think amongst women is to catch a cheater. Like, why is cheating such a big deal for women? Like, they want to feel that. They want to live vicariously through their girlfriends, but they're happy to go and manufacture indignation for themselves. Why? Why is that? You would think, I think guys really, you want to know, here's some differences between men and women. Why is it that women constantly keep coming back to that? Why do they feel like they need to, I don't know, to experience that? Because as guys, we're like, why would you want to do this? Why would you want to keep beating yourself up? Why would you want to keep, experiencing what you claim is a very stressful experience? Why would you want to do that? Like guys, I've heard guys will tell me like this, say, well, I just want to, I go home, I go to work, I have to deal with a lot of stress at work, and all I want to do is come home to a nice quiet house and have sex with my wife, eat a nice meal, and, fart before I go to bed. And they don't understand why they have to deal with all of this other stress and this drama that comes from women. Or what's the number one complaint most guys have of women? She's a drama queen. There's so much drama. Drama is just another word for indignation. And so why is she upset? Because she wants to feel that. She has to feel something, because if she's not feeling indignation, she's not feeling anything. And so I tell guys this, is that indignation is an innate need for women. So they're going to get it from somewhere, whether that's from you or whatever. They're going to get that. Again, the discontent. Remember we were talking about discontent earlier in the show? That's part of that discontent. So they're going to get it from somewhere. It may as well be you. That's like when women have, when women are with their alpha boyfriends, or the party, like Sheryl Sandberg says, go with the guys who are the bad for you guys, the party guys, the chads, the whatever, in their party years. What is it about that is so addicting? Like guys who are just these abusive assholes, and they keep going back to them. What is it about sex with the abusive asshole? What is it about sex with the Chad who doesn't care about them that makes it worthwhile? Why does she keep going back? Like, beta guys don't understand that. This is the indignation part. Beta guys don't understand. Like they only get to experience that woman when she's in her luteal phase. They only get to talk to her when the woman needs an emotional tampon, or needs the stuffed animal at the end of the bed. They only get that. They don't understand like the urgency. Remember we were talking about how men, like most men, are uncomfortable with the arousal phase. Well, guys who are alpha don't have to worry about that. They're never uncomfortable with that, because they've been rewarded with sex because of that so long. Well, why are they being rewarded? Because women like the feel of indignation. They like the feel that this guy might cheat. I've said this, here, I'll say it again. Women don't want a guy to cheat, but they love a guy who could cheat. They want to believe that guy, remember, women want a guy who other men want to be and other women want to fuck. And it's that feeling of, well, he could go and get laid. He's hot enough. I'm finally with a guy who's hot enough. I better jump on him and ride him to glory as much as I can, because if I don't, then one of these other bitches is going to get him. And so there's that indignation that comes, and maybe indignation isn't even the word, but there's that chemical rush that comes from suspicion and jealousy and indignation And there's a feeling that women, maybe it's just the way the brain is wired. Maybe it's just the hormonal differences. Remember, men and women are not the same. So there's something about that keeps a woman coming back to that situation. Even if it's bad for her, even if she knows it, right? I know it, I shouldn't love him, but God damn it, I do. How do I get away from this guy? That's why women become alpha widows. Because they can't, they even in their heads, like even thinking about it, think about this, is when you watch a movie, like you watch a horror movie, your brain, you're simulating a fear response in your brain, or when you watch porn, like guys say this all the time, well, it rewires your brain. Yeah, it kind of does, because your brain doesn't know the difference between that virtual experience and the actual experience. It takes your rational mind to sort of separate those two. But when you're in the moment, you're jerking off, or you're watching a horror movie or whatever, you're experiencing something that is like this primal evolved thing that's in you. Well, what is it about the guy that that triggers that? Even the thought of that guy can trigger that. That's why women get wrapped up in as alpha widows, because they keep thinking, oh man, he's the one that got away. And then by thinking about all the times that they were with that guy, it maybe not to the same degree, but it still re-stimulates that indignation response, or indignations that went, I'm sorry, dude, what did you say? You paid twice for what, dude? All right, I'm going to try to help you out here. Sorry for your $2 post, man. What did you say, dude? 15 Dr. O-Man? Help me out here. Oh, is this it? Because I'll answer this right now. Are there any social constructs that you can take your wife to that will move her more into a more traditional role due to peer pressure? Is that the question you want me to do? Okay, let's see. Are there any social constructs? Okay, first of all, let's define what a social construct is, first of all. And that can take your wife to that will move her more into a traditional role due to peer pressure. Why do you want to do that in the first place? Ask yourself this. Why is that? Why is that something that you want to do? Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to? If she's not that way, do you think she's going to be that way because you exposed her to peer pressure? Because she's obligated to feel that way? Because she's obligated to be like what you want her to be? First of all, I don't know what you want her to be, right? Are they to make her what? A traditional wife? To make her like your, what is that? God damn it, I forget the name of it now. You're wholesome. You want to make her more wholesome, right? You want to, like, yes, man, do this. Go take her to church. And if you take her to church enough times, she's going to become a wholesome wife. Do you think that, and if she did, would you want her? Would you want that woman to say, you know what? Oh gosh, I feel obligated. I've got to do this to be with you. Okay, yes, I'll be, or peer pressure. Do you want a woman who is subjected to peer pressure, or would you rather have a woman who genuinely desires to be whatever it is that you think that she should be? This is and I know we're getting close here, but this is part of the desire dynamic. And this is the part that guys don't like about the desire dynamic. Okay. You cannot negotiate genuine desire, because if you you can change a person at the point of a gun. Okay. You can point the gun at them and you say, guess what? You're going to be a traditional wife. Well, I guess I'm a traditional wife. What do you want me to do? Is that desire? Does she genuinely want to be that? Or is she doing that as an obligation? When I talk about genuine desire, guys love it, because I'll say something like, well, you can't go to a marriage counselor and you can't sit there for half an hour and then like negotiate terms of her desire, of her wanting to have sex with you, because most guys go to those things because they want, like, I'm not getting sex. How do I get sex? Okay, these are my list of terms, like a hostage negotiation. Here's my list of terms and you're going to do this. Okay, you're going to go do dishes for 4 times a week, and then I'm going to have sex with you. And of course, what happens is that it creates a environment. It creates a condition of obligation for her. So do you think she's going to want to have like genuine, like hot monkey sex with you because, oh, you did what you said you would? Okay, yes, I'm into it. No, You need to find ways to genuinely stimulate that desire. Okay, it's not peer pressure that's going to do it. She needs to want to do that, peer pressure or not. Obligated desire sucks. Okay, obligated desire, whatever it is, whether she is who she wants to be or whatever, you can turn a woman into a slut. Yeah, you can, but she's got to want to do that. Okay, like having sex with a prostitute is fantastic if the girl knows how to be a great actress, but did she want to do that? Or what's better? Would you rather have a woman who is just sort of like, who is getting off with you because she really finds you attractive and hot and will do anything for you? Or is it because you paid her $125 before you did? Some guys, some guys will say, yeah, it's fine. I'm good with that. I just want the experience. Okay. I can like a lot of guys will say, well, it's all about the behavior. It's all about what she, as long as she does what I want her to do, then that's fine. But see, I'm all about the genuine desire. I want her to want it. I want her to want to do that. Just like we were talking about before about like last minute resistance. When I say I'm not a big proponent of pushing past last minute resistance, yeah, I mean, I understand the risks involved, but that's not why I was against it in the beginning. I want a woman who genuinely wants to have sex with me. That's the difference between transactional sex and validational sex. Why? Because she wants to do that. So are there any social constructs that you can do to make your wife, you can take your wife to that will move her more in a traditional role. Okay, well, what do you want? Are you saying church? Is that what you want her to do? Why do you want her to be that? Why? Here's a better question. Why doesn't she want to be that? And why are you with a person who is resistant to that? Why would you be there in the first place? You're trying to say, well, she's a, like, and I joke about this all the time too, because like there's these guys who, it's almost a cliche now, like there's the sort of the reformed slut, right? The churches are full of reformed sluts, man. If that's what you want, why are you with her? Why don't you just go to church? And there's plenty of single mommies who would probably love to be your traditional girl. You don't even need any peer pressure. She would love to do that because her necessities are such that she is ready to do that. So the question here isn't so much as, how do you do that? Well, what do you get? What's the woman like once she conforms and she is obligated to do what you want her to be? I keep saying this and I'm working it out. I will probably do this next Wednesday, but I'm going to do Religion and the Red Pill with Abu American, and that will be Wednesday. Don't quote me on the time just yet. It's going to be somewhere between noon Pacific and 3 o'clock Pacific. We haven't really nailed it down just yet, but we're going to do a thing, and I'm going to talk to him about exactly this, because depending on like women in like Muslim society, like women know what's expected of them, right? The man doesn't have to go in there and like turn her into what he wants to, because she's already done. That's how she is. Like even Tate was saying that last time. It's like, you have to build a woman, you have to make her into something, but you got to have he's the analogy of like a car. If you're going to build a race car, you don't build it from the ground up. You find a good fast car, and then you build onto it and you put something. So that's like we were talking about the myth of the quality woman, right? So granted, yes, there are some women who are better. They would make a better car, a race car, if you just upgraded them or if you did something to them. Whereas building it from the ground up take a lot of time. But my question is this, man. It's like, why do you want her to be that? Why? I had a guy, I won't name any names. I had a guy I was counseling. He was really, really hung up on this one girl who said all the right things. Like she saw him coming, right? She knew what he was about. She knew everything was on the table because he's still stuck in this blue pill way of thinking. And he's looking at her through this filter of, this is what she should be. And he even used that word wholesome. Oh, she was so wholesome. She told me all these things that I wanted to hear. Like she would show me like how girls would dress slutty and then tell me like, oh, I can't believe women do that. And would play it along with that kind of traditional conservative sun hat goddess, narrative that goes along with that. And really fed into this impression that she was the kind of person that would fulfill his, now whether he was building this himself or not, I don't know, but would fulfill his fantasy of being with a wholesome woman. And then, of course, it turned out that she was really not that wholesome person and was really, getting into her party years. But she saw him and read him and used that for whatever reason, whether she was testing him or whatever, used that as sort of I don't say a vetting technique, but was like sort of a test. And he just could not understand why she would do something like that. And well, first of all, there's the indignation side of that whole thing. What did you do here? I have no idea what this means. When blue pill men see Makala flying, see state. What? I don't get it. But thank you for that $2 Canadian. I'll use that for Taco Bell later. So anyways, I'm getting close to the end here. I think it's some really great questions today. But anyway, so I want to leave you, like, I don't want to leave you hanging here. So I think really what you have to wrap your head around is, why do you want to do that? What in you, what part of you thinks that is a good effort? We're talking about a lot of iron rules today. When I talk about iron rule number 7, which is, it is always time better spent in developing new prospective women than it is to try to repair or get back an old girlfriend or repair a failed relationship, because you have a history with that person. And because, for whatever reason, things didn't work out for you, that's not going to change. Even if she says, oh, you were right, I was wrong, we should get back together again, and you actually do. I don't think we could ever statistically find out what the average is for this, but I would bet that most often when people get back together after a bad breakup, those relationships tend to be less stable than they were even maybe prior to that. Even when it was bad, it's even worse now that they've got back together, because you have that history. And that's why I said, never root through garbage once you've taken the can to the curb, because what you're looking for is never what you thought it was. And so I think that a lot of guys, yes, it was, wasn't it? I think that a lot of guys want to believe that they can turn their girlfriend or the girl that they're with, the only girl, like most guys will do this. I've talked about the strategic pluralism theory. Like, most guys are 85%ers. Those are the guys who are the beta guys, who have to put all of their eggs in one basket. They have to focus all of their effort on one girl, and they have to feel that this is right to them, because they really don't have any other options. They make their necessity a virtue. So they go, yes, everybody should be monogamous, and I'm doing my part. And even those guys who are the 20%er Chad guys, those guys should also do exactly what I'm doing, because this is morally right, and this is the way things should be in society, right? And so they focus on one girl. It's like the sniper mentality that I mentioned in the first book. Focus on this one girl, do everything for her, make her know that she's loved and appreciated, and and put everything that you can into this one girl and turn her into, because why? Because that scarcity mentality. They know that they don't have many other options, and so they're kind of forced to focus on putting more energy into one, because according to the strategic pluralism theory, they're putting their reproductive efforts into one woman, because they don't have the opportunity for many other reproductive opportunities. So they have to do that. Well, in doing that, we've got to make reasons why that's the right thing to do, or why that is worthwhile to do. And so you get these guys who focus in on that. And then now you got to add, so you take that theory, the strategic pluralism theory, and you've got to add everything from the modern world into that right now. Internet, gynocentrism, hypergamy, all this other stuff has to go along into that. So it takes a lot of effort on the part of men to rationalize that focus while all this other stuff is going on around them. And so now they've got to find some way to turn her into that perfect little Holly Hobby, Little House on the Prairie girl who is going to, be the wholesome good girl by, forcing her to go to church, forcing her to do this, forcing her into positions where she's going to feel peer pressure for something. It's like, why would you want to do that? Why would you not just simply want a woman who's already like that, or at least has the potential to do that? So yeah, I mean, what do you want to do? Let's say, oh, well, let's take her to church. Okay, take her to church. What's that going to do? Why are you taking her? Because you genuinely want her to have some sort of religious, experience or epiphany? Or is it because you want her to be something that she doesn't even have the potential to really be? Because, and why? Because you don't have any other options. I got to take her here. I got to find some way to coerce her into thinking in a certain way to make me feel better about this whole thing. Rather, so that's a lot of energy. That's a lot of effort. Wouldn't it be better just to simply spin plates, man? To like have other things going where you go, okay, well, that's not working out. Let's go over to this. Well, I've got 4 other girls in my roster. Why? I don't need to take her to church, turn her into somebody she doesn't want to be or doesn't have the genuine desire to be. Okay, well, there's 2 other girls over here that, that really love me, that really want to get with me. Why would you do that? I think it's kind of like wasted effort. Let's see. Yeah. See, this is it. Yeah. Thank you. That was actually pretty good. All right, gentlemen, we are at 2 hours. We're actually over 2 hours right now. We're at 2:14. I hope this has been helpful in some way. I like doing solo stuff. Maybe I should just do a straight up solo day. I have been doing a lot of podcasting recently. I will be doing a show with Pat Campbell also on, I'll get to you one. You got to throw it in at the end, don't you, man? I'll be doing a show with Pat Campbell on his terrestrial radio show. That will be Friday. If you don't know that already, I do it every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. If you need to find the link to that show, remember it's 11:30 Eastern. Excuse me, 11. It's 11 o'clock Eastern, and you can listen to it online. And if you didn't get to listen to it, you can also listen to the archives. One man's way. You have said all energy is sexual energy. Actually, that's not me. That was actually Dr. Sigmund Freud who said that. Is all motivation for men and women asexual strategy? Would MGTOW be void of motivation if it is sexual? If it is sexual? All right, so here's the thing. That actually, One Man's Way, is a quote by Sigmund Freud, who said all energy is sexual. The other thing is, I forget who said this, but everything is about sex except for sex. Sex is about power. And I would put a caveat in there that sex is also about reproduction. And sex has to be the most important thing that we think about in this life. Otherwise, we don't get to pass on our genes to the next generation. So we have to have a very powerful, there's 2 things that there are 2 things in life that we have to have a really powerful motivation for: hunger, eating, well, I guess breathing too, and sex. Those are those are the imperatives. Anything else is just like something that we take, all the rest of life is just pretty much tagged on to the rest of that. And I have said that all energy is sexual because we have had, I think, over the course of human history, a lot of the accomplishments that men have made have been in some way indirect efforts to prove reproductive value, reproductive worth. Even if I'm a guy who put the man on the moon. Oh, well, why did you do that? Well, it was there. We were idealistic. Well, why are men? Yeah, maybe that's it, right? Why are men more idealistic than women? Why are men more interested in things than women are and women are more interested in people? Why are we wired that way? You could say, well, God made us that way, or if evolution made us that way. Okay, either way, we're that way. Why? Because it promotes us to be complements to one another. It promotes us to, or emphasizes or incentivizes us to do different things. One of the reasons why we are constantly discontent is because we need to move on to the next thing. We need to produce, we need to push more as an indirect result of our sexual motivations. So what I was talking about before with respect to to creative intelligence. Why is creative intelligence something that is selected for? Or I don't, because a lot of people get on my case about like saying creative intelligence. Okay, well, a capacity for creativity. Why is that a selected for thing? Well, because that drive to find a solution to a man's reproductive problem inspires him to innovation, to creativity, to like there's a like build a better nest, right? Build a prettier home, build a mansion instead of a mud hut, build these things. Who has the best capacity to be a better provider or a better or physical prowess? Why do we go to the gym? Well, I go to the gym because I want to be in shape and I need to be concerned about my health. Okay, that's part of it, but also you want to have better sex appeal so that you can solve your reproductive problem. So yeah, all energy is sexual. And I don't want to, I don't, again, that's Dr. Sigmund Freud, not me. I don't necessarily buy into the woo-woo magical energy vibrations crap. That's probably June. But the motivation, the incentive to solve the sexual reproductive problem for men inspires them, if you want to call that energy, okay, inspires them to do other things, to do novel things, to figure it out. How can I get a woman to come to my nest? How do I? This is not just human beings, right? I mean, it's the animal kingdom. Defeat rivals. Kill off his. How do you get primate females horny? You kill off the offspring of your rival, the rival alpha, before you took over the troop. That's how it works, right? The females go into estrus after you do something like that. That's ugly. That's horrible. Oh my God, we could never do that as human beings, right? But okay, we can't do that, but we find other ways to manifest that desire. We find, as ugly as that is, that's God's honest truth. So how does that energy, and I'm using energy as an abstraction here, I'm not saying woo woo, let's go talk about the secret energy. I'm just saying that the motivation to solve the reproductive problem is something that gets redirected. The incentive gets redirected into other aspects. Would a MGTOW be void of motivation if it is sexual? Well, I've asked this before, and I've gotten this is the answer I've got. I've asked guys if there was a pill that you could take that would completely kill your sexual drive so that you would no longer be interested in women, would you take it? And I ask that because a lot of guys will say, well, I wish I didn't. Like, it's a burden to have like a sex drive or have a libido for guys because it's too distracting, or I can't stop thinking about anything else, or porn is, I got an obsession with porn, or I can't, So what? Well, if you could kill off your sex drive, if you could completely destroy your libido, take it away, would you do that? A lot of guys said yes. They're like, yeah, I would. It would be great because then I could focus on things. Because then I could solve the mysteries of the universe, and if I had that, then maybe I could cure cancer, or I would, if I could just go monk mode, or I would turn, like, look at Nikola Tesla. He never got laid, and he had these great ideas. Of course, he got them all ripped off. But I think that a lot of guys have this failed kind of impression that if they killed off their libido, that they would in some way be more productive, and they would be more inspired, or they would be closer to God or whatever. I mean, that really, I mean, isn't that the idea? Like, that's why you become a celibate monk, so that you can focus more on higher things, right? What do those guys do? What do they build? I mean, maybe they build cathedrals, right? But what do they do? They focus that energy. What's funny is when you look at the Catholic priests and the stereotypically here, going and diddling kids, or turns out they're gay, or turns out they're, there's this rampant sexual abuse in the Catholic Church because you have celibate men Well, that energy gets transferred somewhere, man. That sexual, you know, for lack of a better term, energy. I don't know, because I don't know, it's not woo woo magic energy. It's just like that incentive, or what, where do you apply that drive, right? And sometimes you apply that drive in antisocial ways. So yeah, remember when we talk about discontent, you could say, well, you're channeling that sexual angst to destructive ends because of your discontent. Yeah, I would say so. Or you can solve that problem. You can solve your reproductive problem, or you can channel that reproductive energy to constructive ways to solve your discontent. You can build things, you can do things, right? But it's still there. That's what's driving you. That because you are trying to solve a reproductive problem, you're going to go on to greater things. Like when I look at, I think a good example of this is like Marvel superheroes. Like we have the like SJWs jump into you know, the movies or whatever. We want to have Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel, right? Or we want to have our superheroes to be female, and or we want to find, like, we'll criticize these guys who draw women with big boobs and perfect asses and like flat stomachs and everything. It's like, yeah, why is that genre popular? Because it solves, or at least it's a way of redirecting that sexual energy, or that sexual, you know, how to solve your reproductive problem. It manifests in other ways, right? It manifests in the comics. Why are they popular? Why are they wildly popular to the point where we want to make 10 years worth of movies? Because back in the 60s, or back whenever they were created, it was an expression, or it was a direction that we took that reproductive effort, because we weren't getting any play. You weren't getting laid because you were a nerd. Okay, well, let's take that and we're going to direct that into something else. And that's why it's ridiculous when I see, you know, SJWs or feminists or whatever complain about how, you know, oh, they're unrealistic beauty standards in Marvel comics or whatever. Why can't we have a strong, you know, female archetype in it? Why can't we have that? Because that's not where that came from. Women don't understand that, because it was men, it was sexually frustrated men who created that. My dog here is telling me. There's my dog. Sorry. See, you guys, you kept me 25 minutes after my dog is telling me it's time to go. So just to end here, that last question, one man's way. I think that men's sexual nature is one of the most powerful things in the universe. Like guys will say, like I've heard guys like what the hell is that guy's name? Radio guy. Like guys will say that, you know, testosterone is like the worst thing, is the most dangerous chemical in the universe. It's what inspires men to violence and rape and all of that. If we just could remove testosterone. Tom Hartman, that's the dude, liberal talk show guy. Tom Hartman has said testosterone is the most dangerous chemical in the universe, and he's probably right. And it's also the most useful, most constructive chemical in the universe too, because it also inspires us and pushes us in a direction where we can be better. We can be more than what we are. And if you take that away, I think a lot of guys have this mistaken idea that if you remove a man's libido, if you remove a man's like drive for sex, that he's going to go and become more productive. Or like, well, I don't have to think about that anymore, so now I can go finally focus on curing cancer. No, you're not going to do anything, because you have no motivation. You have nothing to kick you in the ass. Why do we have testosterone replacement therapy? Why do guys like, I'm not on it, but like, why do guys like, say, Rich Cooper or Pat Campbell like talk about, well, God, I got on TRT and man, I feel like I'm $1,000,000. I feel like I want to do stuff. I got a new lease on life. Why? Why is that? Why not? We took it away and I'm depressed. And I'm just kind of like, I don't really want to do anything. I just want to go to sleep. Oh, I don't have any time. And then women, and why is it that women will ridicule guys who have low T, right? Remember all that bullshit with Nellie Bowles and the TR, well, it was TRT, but like the low sperm counts stories in the New York Times. Why was that a point of ridicule? Why would low sperm be something that women would go, ha ha, you have low sperm, you're a whiny baby boy, right? You're not virile and strong like a young buck, like a young 18-year-old that we deserve having sex with. Why is that a source of shame? Because they understand that that is a resource. That is a source of men's, well, you say virility, yeah, but it's also a source of motivation and incentivizing guys to do more because they want to solve that reproductive problem. Why is it that like most men do their best, like I've got stats for it somewhere. It's probably in my stats folder here. Why is it that men make the most significant scientific, creative, breakthroughs when they are between the ages of like 25 and 35 years old? Because that's when they're doing that. That's when they're trying their best. That's when they're doing the most that they can do. I'm sure, like, if you went and you look back in history, like when things were a little bit different and men didn't live as long as they did, it might have been between 18 and 25. I think, like, now I'm getting a little bit off topic. I don't want to get too far off here, but like I look back and I look at some of the things that young men used to do back in, like, say, the 1800s. Like the one I always go back to, and have you ever seen the movie called Glory? It had Matthew Broderick in it. It was about the 51st Regiment. I forget the name, in the Civil War. It was the all-black regiment. And I looked at that, and I remember reading about that. And I think it was I was in college or something. I was watching the movie. It was a really good movie too. I think it got some Academy Awards. It had who else was in that? It was Matthew Broderick and Denzel. Denzel was in that as well. Denzel Washington. Fantastic movie, but it made me think, here's a kid. Like, if you look at Robert Gould Shaw is the name of the general who was the guy who led what the hell is it? Like I'm struggling for words for, I think, the division or whatever they're in. Who led the 54th. And he was 23 years old. And he was like a captain or something by the time he was like 21. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine being a general? I mean, maybe it was because of his family or whatever, but like, can you imagine being that at that age? I'm watching, I haven't finished the whole thing, so don't ruin it for me, but I'm watching this show called The King on Netflix. A king who is like 18, 19. Like, think about the shit that those guys did when they were younger. Think about like the capacity that guys have at that age. And now, in this time, we ridicule guys for calling themselves a man at 16, at 18 years old. Like women, I was in a conversation one time, and I think a guy who was like 18 years old referred to himself as a man, and this other girl who was like 20, just like, you're not a man. Back in not even 100 years ago, that would never have taken place, because of course the nature of everything was different. But like, men knew what they were going to do, and they had a motivation. They had a purpose. I think most guys don't have a purpose today, and so we've got all this libido, we've got all this anger, we've got the most powerful chemical in the world coursing through our brain, coursing through our bodies. We don't do anything with it. We'll want to turn it off. Like, that's going to solve a fucking problem. Sorry. All right, guys. So that's something to think about. See, now I'm getting all, you guys got me all messed up here. All right, guys. So I am going to end. Don't give me any more supers unless you don't want them to be read. All right, guys. So I will be doing a show with Tate as soon as I can work it out. I think we're going to do it tomorrow. That's a conversation I would very much like to do it tomorrow with him. Tate, if you're watching. He is in Dubai right now. I would have done it with him today, but he had to cancel at the last minute. So I just did a quick hit Q&A here. Also, so if I just look on this channel, if you haven't subscribed, please do. Also, hit the alerts button so you know when I'm going to do it. And so that's coming up. And I would say that's going to be tomorrow. I hope I can do it by noon. But watch this space for the time. And Friday, of course, I'll be on with Pat Campbell. Friday afternoon, I might be doing something special, so keep an eye out. If I get to it, like I said, I've been doing a lot of podcasting lately. I'm trying to get a couple of essays written, and I'm still working on book 4 all at the same time because I'm productive and I still have testosterone coursing through body right now. And then, of course, Sunday I do Red Pill 101 with Pat Campbell. That will be at 4:30 Eastern time. So please do have a watch of that as well. And I will see you guys later. Thank you guys for watching the entire show. I will see you tomorrow, Tate, tomorrow, as soon as I can get him, Tate. Okay. Oh, and Abu American on Wednesday of next week, if all goes well. So watch for that. Thank you guys.